Welcome to Donut DOC. I'm your host, Steve Reimann, and today's episode is about origin stories. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept, an origin story is basically the background or added context into why somebody is the way that they are. What are those life experiences that have shaped them? Well, today, you're in for a treat because I have found the one expert in Steve Reimann's origin story. And without any further ado, let's go in and let's meet them. This is Donut DOC. Welcome again to Donut DOC, and as I promised earlier, I have found the one expert as far as Steve Reimann's origin story who is absolutely a true expert, and that is no other than my mom, Carol Reimann. Mom?
Good morning. Good morning.
So what we've got this morning is we decided to go ahead and pick up some donuts and talk a little bit about the origin story that goes behind why it is that I have been considered a donut connoisseur, a donut aficionado, and even a donut guru. Yes, I've actually had people say, please point us in the right direction. Where do we need to go when we're in this particular area or that particular area? So why don't we go ahead and get started? So I tell you what, Mom, before we get into the donuts here, tell us a little bit about my origin story.
All right. I am a school teacher, retired now after in education for 50 years. And so Steve came along, excuse me, Steve came along about 7 years after I started teaching. And I loved teaching, but I loved my son. And so I kept on teaching, but I took him to daycare. He had stayed with a babysitter for several years, and then she couldn't keep him anymore, and so I had to find a daycare. At that time, there was only one daycare in our town, and so I would take him every morning to daycare, and he would run to the window because I had to go down the street and turn around and go to my school. He'd run to the window, and I could still see the little tears running out of his eyes. He just didn't like it at all, but there was nothing else for me to do but to take him to daycare. So, as a teacher for all those years, I know that some people might say what I did was called bribery.
Yes.
But
fair.
I called it positive reinforcement. When I took him upstairs to the daycare, I'd say, now son, if you don't cry and you have a good day, because I'll ask the teacher when I pick you up, I will take you downstairs to one of the local donut places, and you can have a donut of your choice. Now, he started there when he was 2 years old. So that's the story. It is my fault. I have always loved donuts, so that's the second reason that I took him there.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
You're
So as you can see, one, I had genetics working in my favor, and then two, also, they say nature or nurture, well, certainly the nurture aspect kicked in as well. So you also have to understand the bakery she would take me to was called Rigdon's Bakery, and it was located not just down the street or across town or somewhere else. It was located in the exact same building as my daycare. So, I mean, come on. You had to, right?
I had to.
Right, so literally we would walk out of the front door, and I'll also include pictures after the video as well, or during this video, for you to be able to see, but literally in the same building as this two-story daycare as well. So you'd literally walk out the front door, walk down the parking lot, probably not even 20 steps, although to a 2 to 4-year-old, it probably seemed like 80 steps, you know, things look bigger at that age. So yeah, so literally I would get right out of daycare, walk down to Rigdon's Bakery, and get a particular donut. Now, if memory serves correct, I think it was usually always the same donut each and every day, unless they were out.
Yes. Now, that was a very sad situation if they were out of the donut that he really wanted. And if memory serves me, I think you always wanted one with sprinkles.
I did always want one with sprinkles, but then also because I love sprinkles. Sprinkles make everything better. Sprinkles are happy, for example. Here's an idea for you too, a little tip that I learned from somebody named Julie one point in time. And no, not Julie as in Jules, my wife, but Julie, who is an innkeeper at a bed and breakfast. If you put candy sprinkles in a jar of sugar, you now have happy sugar. So take that one with you. So,
ooh,
yeah, it's an idea.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, I always wanted one particular type of donut. And if it had sprinkles, even better. But that type of donut is actually located in this box right now. And can you guess which one it might be? It was the custard Long John. Oh, this thing is absolutely amazing. And we've talked a little bit about Long Johns in the past, and we are still going to have an episode, I guarantee you, about having filled Long Johns. Because I gotta tell you, for somebody like myself, you give me a Long John that's not filled, you've cheated me. I'm mad.
That's right.
I wanna know why you didn't fill my Long John. And not just the white fluff. Some people will like the white fluff. Me, I like the Bavarian cream. And I used to call it custard. I don't know why I used to call it custard, but it was always the Long Johns with custard. And so that's what I picked up here today myself. Now, unfortunately, Rigdon's Bakery is no longer around. They've been gone, gosh, 30, 40 years probably.
You're showing your age now.
Well, yes, I am. And that being said, we have another place here in town called Jackson Donuts that I actually picked up the donuts here this morning. But this is going to be my donut of choice. Mom, I picked up some extra donuts here as well. What would be your donut of choice?
Well, I think you probably know. I don't really care for sprinkles, you know, added calories. But I do care for a caramel cinnamon roll.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about why a caramel cinnamon roll.
Well, I love it when my family, of course, my husband and my children, you know, say things like, I love you. But the next 2-3 words that I really like are caramel oozing on a sweet roll.
All right. Well, you know what? I feel like I am doing you a disservice by making you talk. So you know what? Why don't we just go ahead and partake? So why don't you go first?
All right. Now, I could cut it because I brought some silverware, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to hold it like this and find where the caramel comes closest to the edge so you get a good taste of the caramel to begin with.
You want to show them where the caramel is on there for you? So the bite you're choosing? Okay, so as you can see here, you got a pretty much of a standard border around this cinnamon roll, but there's one spot in particular, almost as if the good people at Jackson Donuts knew that that was the absolute cinnamon roll that you needed. So, go ahead and partake.
I don't know if you told them it was for me, but they know me personally because about once a week I stop. And one day they didn't have a cinnamon roll made up with caramel. And the lady said, oh, I'll do that for you. So she took a plain cinnamon roll, went back and came back with it in a box. And it was oozy, warm heaven.
All right, well, dive on in.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you feeling there?
Wonderful.
She says wonderful. Anything else come through on that cinnamon roll for you, Mom?
That caramel, it has been oozing, and it is just soft and very, very tasteful. I don't think there's any other taste to compare to. I don't think even your
Oh, that's fighting words right there, Mom. You don't want to go down that road.
But the caramel, and then it goes down in the actual bottom, so you can see that there's also caramel down on the bottom.
Well, on the other side. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, it has actually seeped through there. My bad. So
doesn't he know his mother's always right?
Right, exactly. And I love the fact I give her these opportunities for her to remind me from time to time. So yes, that caramel has seeped through the crevices there. And the other thing too, if you don't mind, I'll just grab it here by the napkin so the viewers can see. There is actually a bit of a marbling, if you can see that's going on there along the top. Hence the reason why you know that it is still a little more, I don't want to say necessarily on the liquid side, but more fluid.
It could be.
So to speak. Well, it could be, you know, especially if you were to put it in the microwave.
Now, I was just coming to that.
Oh,
son.
I'm
Good
sorry.
thinking. Another way that you can eat them is get it and put it in the microwave, but put pats of butter on the top, and then the butter just seeps down in there too. You have to be careful and use a napkin because it will run off on your hands.
That sounds like just a poor you. I feel so sorry for you and your running butter along with your running caramel. Terrible, terrible.
Of course, I don't eat these very often, maybe once a week, because I'm sure I have to weigh at the doctor's office, and I've got about 6 months before I have to weigh again. So the week before I go to the doctor, I won't have one, but I'll have one on the way home from the doctor's office.
Yeah, good job, because those lab results are, a week out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, that's a whole nother conversation we'll have for a whole nother day. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive on into my custard long john. Again, this was absolutely my gateway donut. So here we go.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
I would just want to know if you like chocolate, or you can get that one with caramel on the top too, and you can get it with white.
Well, so good question, Mom. Thank you for asking that.
You're welcome.
So I will always lean towards the chocolate icing first. And there's a reason for that. Is as much as I like the caramel icing, as much as I love the maple icings and different things, with this particular donut, the beautiful thing about it is it provides such a nice contrast between the yeast, the regular vanilla, if we will, yeast, and then also with the Bavarian cream. To me, that is the balance that I'm looking for between those two donuts. So
even though this one's pretty well balanced.
Well, I get it, different strokes for different folks. But that being said, this is the original. It's the gateway donut. It is what it was and always will be. So here we go. Okay. The beautiful thing about this, what comes through first, is going to be the crispiness that's on the bottom. Now, granted, part of that is because the reason why I was holding the donut the way it was. So naturally, the tongue hits that first. But you can see I just got into the pocket of Bavarian cream inside there. And it, excuse me, makes a nice contrast between the two. Now, I'm going to take a second bite right over here.
Before you do that.
Oh, yes.
I think this is very interesting. Look at my size bite. Look at his size bite.
Okay. Well, I'm like a miner. I'm trying to dig for the Bavarian cream. I'm a growing boy.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, you want to take a bite together?
Well, sure.
We can do that. Okay, ready?
Oh, no, just a minute.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You got your bite?
Huh?
Okay.
Oh.
So, we also do something here on Donut DOC that you have good donuts, you have elevated donuts, and when something's really outstanding, it just comes natural. You kind of shimmy because it tastes so good. Okay. Now, you had a little bit of it going on there. So, here's what I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend we take another bite, and I'm just going to pull that chunk off. I'm coming back to that here in a little bit. But now I've got a bite that's going to just be full on Bavarian cream custard. Okay. So, does it induce a shimmy? You ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Yeah. Feel it? Yeah, you just got to move. It's just so good. And for me, it's that smoothness and that great custard taste that's there inside the cream, or that's inside the Long John. It brings the taste buds to life. It just says, Steve, you gotta move. And it, again, brings back just a flood of memories. And you know how different scents and different smells, different aromas, and then also different tastes can really unleash some of those thoughts and memories that you formulated over the years. Well, that's exactly what this does for me. And it reminds me of happiness and goodness. How about you?
Oh, I think that's wonderful. That's really good.
Thank you.
I like it because, it's positive reinforcement for me. It's not.
So here's another question for you, because
Okay.
I know Mom loves to tell stories about me, especially when I was young. And I also am going to show some pictures that she brought along for today. I will also put in the video as well for everybody to enjoy, get a good laugh from. But is there any particular stories or any particular thoughts on your mind about young little Stevie Reimann that you want to share?
I guess, yes. there are. My husband grew up on a farm, which we still own, and we would go out to see his mom, and then he would help his dad when we were young and had Steve. And I always took extra clothes for Steve, because if he got dirty out there, he was not the kid who played in the dirt.
No, still not.
No, he doesn't like to get dirty. He likes to, you know, he didn't know about bow ties back then, but if he had, he would have gone ahead and worn them. And my favorite story is my husband one day was watering something, I guess maybe the garden out at Grandma's, and he put the hose on Steve, and Steve ran to the house to Grandma, and she had extra clothes for him. Yeah. And so he got clean clothes because he didn't want to get wet or dirty. And then one time, of course, Steve was not a real fan of vegetables, especially peas. And we were at Grandma's, and Grandma had a special plate for Steve to eat his supper out of. And so my husband his dad fixed his plate, and he put some peas on there. We took the plate over to Steve. Steve did not say a word, but big crocodile tears were coming down out of his eyes. Grandma, who already had 13 grandchildren, never said a word. She got up from her end of the table. She picked up his little dish, took it and dumped everything out, and fixed it all over again with no peas. And so my husband said, well, you would have made me eat those peas. And she said, I know, but little Stevie doesn't have to eat peas if he doesn't want to when he's at my house. And we kind of laughed about that, but now that we have grandchildren, you know that's right. That's right. Anything they don't like, they don't have to eat. And I know several times Steve has said, well, Mom, you would have made me eat it. That's right. But these are my grandchildren, and that's a whole different thing. I really believe that God gives you grandchildren as a reward for growing old.
That's a very good outlook. And I might also add, I bet you never tried putting peas in a Long John for me, did you?
Oh, no.
Maybe that might have made the difference. Maybe mix it with. So. You don't think so?
No.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know because you didn't try it.
You were not colorblind, so you would have seen.
Well, that's true too. That's true. But at least it would have been a good camouflage, maybe up until that point. You know. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Donut DOC. I hope you've enjoyed the opportunity to sit down and learn a little bit more about my donut origin story from the Steve Reimann expert as far as when it comes to origin stories, my mom, Carol Reimann.
That's sweet.
Yes, thank you, Mom. All right, that's going to do it for us from here. Thanks again for tuning in.